That's one small step for man.
AI rebels, please.
Giant leap for mankind.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the AI Rebels podcast. As always, I am your co-host, Spencer.
And I'm your other co-host, Jacob. And we're very excited to have Robert, and say your last name for me and everyone listening, Robert.
It's a crazy one, a crazy Polish last name. It's pronounced Grzesik is the English term.
Grzesik. Okay,
just
awesome.
drop the Z.
Yeah. Just drop the Z. Okay, that's easy. Robert Grzesik. Robert, for everyone listening, is the CEO behind BotSpot, which we're going to talk all about today. It's going to revolutionize AI and trading and change, who knows, maybe Wall Street forever. Who knows?
That's the goal.
And you're also involved in LumiWealth, I know. Anyway, I'm just excited to talk to you about this drive to really democratize algorithmic trading. I think it's such a niche, typically, like, it's really hard to get into that space, but it's unique that you're trying to make it available to everybody. So can you tell us high level about BotSpot? What's the big idea? What's the mission? And what are you going for?
Sure, yeah. So, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. You know, it's really difficult to make these trading algorithms, right? The problem really is that as an individual, if you're going off and you're trading, you're not trading against other people. You're mostly trading against machines, right? So you have this really big disadvantage. I don't know if you're aware of this, but something like 70 to 80% of all trades on the stock market are made by robots, right? So when you place a trade, the person or the thing on the other side of the trade is most likely not a human being. You're mostly trading against a robot, right? So this is inherently a very one-sided system. It's very, set up for the hedge funds to make tons of money and for every other person to kind of not be able to make that kind of money, right?
Yeah.
And that goes even further. It's not even just individuals versus corporations. It's also the big hedge funds versus the smaller ones, right? Like we have some clients that are, prop trading firms or hedge funds or whatever. And, the big hedge funds, they've been doing AI for 10, 20 years. They have all this crazy technology and maybe they have better things than, even OpenAI or whatever in some situations. But these smaller hedge funds, the regular everyday people, prop traders, that sort of thing, like they just don't have the tools to compete, right? We want to level that playing field. It's basically what we're working on.
It's a big mission. I feel like there will be, or maybe there already has been, a lot of pushback from those players to this type of technology.
We haven't really gotten so much pushback yet. It's probably because we're still small, right? Eventually there will be some sort of pushback, I'm sure, right? But as of right now, I mean, these big hedge funds and like they just don't care. They have billions upon billions of dollars. They could care less, right? At this point,
right?
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. They're comfortable.
For now, at least.
Yeah. We'll see what you can do about that.
Yeah.
So how does a tool like BotSpot, where does it slot in versus a tool like a portfolio 123, right? That helps users, set up quantitative trading algorithms and test them against historical data.
So I've never used portfolio 123 in particular, but there's quite a few different tools like this right now.
Yeah.
So like Option Alpha is one of them. Composer is another one. There's a bunch of tools like that where basically you could like drag and drop things. And you could say, okay, first buy this thing and then do this trade. And then if the RSI is higher than this, then do this, whatever. Right. And there's a lot of these tools are kind of like these drag and drop type things. And like you make a flow chart, but there's inherently an issue with that, right? Is that you are only able to do what is available in terms of tooling there, right? Because this company is going to make this thing, let's say Composer, Option Alpha, even TradingView, right? They have these kinds of tools, but there's always a limitation. You're always going to hit some sort of limitation, right? When it comes to TradingView, for example, you'll build out some algorithm, whatever, and you just can't get outside sources, or you can't use an AI model, or you can't use whatever. So we took a very different approach, right? We took the approach of, instead of trying to do this drag and drop thing and try to make the perfect interface for everyone, we are instead going to do this all with Python code, right? Which is going to be a lot more flexible. Python code is one of the most used languages on earth, right? It's basically JavaScript and Python run everything that
and if you're
involved.
in finance, it's Python.
Right?
Wow. if you're in finance, it's Python. I can speak English.
Yeah, exactly, right? But yeah, so when you're using Python, you're able to do a lot more, right? Instead of just this drag and drop thing and like, oh, they don't have this indicator, they don't have this thing. I mean, you could use Python to do like anything, right? So it's really, really, really customizable. And we've been teaching people how to do this. Like I run LumiWealth. LumiWealth is like our education side of our company. And we've been teaching people how to do this for a while. And then basically somewhere around November of last year, OpenAI launched a new model. And a lot of people thought this was really cool. But to me, it was like this revolutionary thing. When O1 came out, ChatGPT O1, all of a sudden, I went from, I've been coding for 25 years. So I've been programming like my entire life.
Okay.
I went from writing code myself to getting ChatGPT to write code for me and copying and pasting it over, right? And you start seeing that and you're like, holy crap, like maybe we're not going to need to code anymore, right? And we're seeing that evolve right now. I think probably by sometime next year, already, like you speak to, or I heard a thing by Satya Nadella. He said something like 80% of all code is made by AI now at Microsoft, right? It's crazy, right? And that number is only going to go up. So you combine the fact that we're able to do things using Python, very, very flexible. Up until now, it's been very hard to do. And now we have these AI models that can actually wrangle that code and build things. Now we can do something very special, right? And that's kind of what BotSpot's about.
Awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that vision because, just riffing off of what you mentioned about Microsoft and their code. I recently went on vacation and I happened to sit next to this guy on this little tour of a city who was a engineer on Google's Pay team, and he was saying that 60 to 70% of his code now is, and this is on like a very mature product that requires a ton of reliability, right? Like 70% of his code is written by AI. It's incredible what's happening. So with BotSpot, does BotSpot develop these algorithms themselves, or does it help people identify algorithms that would serve their needs?
We're more of the second one. Like I said, we've been doing this education piece for a while.
Yeah.
So we've built a lot of algorithms in-house. We have quite a few, and we've been running them, and they're successful. They do well. But what I think is much more interesting than, and we started off with just like, hey, let's build these algorithms, let's give them to people. And, there's tons of companies that do this sort of thing. But then you start to realize like, that's very limited, right? That's basically you trying to become a hedge fund and you're trying to do that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's that exciting and that interesting, right? Like we don't need to be the 1,000th hedge fund in the world or however many, tens of thousands or whatever, right? What I think is a lot more interesting is to give people the tools to be able to do it themselves, to democratize this sort of thing, right? Because, and we're launching a marketplace, hopefully sometime tomorrow or Sunday.
Nice.
But so we're going to have a marketplace now where basically you go in there, you create an algorithm, right? And you could share with others, right? We're eventually going to allow you to monetize that as well. So you make an algorithm that's profitable. Maybe you're someone, I don't know, like there's so much talent out in the world. Maybe you're someone from India or wherever.
Yeah.
You don't have the capital. You can't trade it yourself, but you're really talented and you're willing to take the time to build this stuff out. They could build out an algorithm and they could sell that to other people and still make a profit off of it, right? So this becomes very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, where basically we could have this market. It's not just about, because not everyone wants to make an algorithm, right? Not everyone has the chops to do it. Not everyone knows the financial markets well enough. Not everyone wants to spend the time, right? But if you allow for the sharing to happen, then that's when some really magical stuff starts happening,
Yeah. So we keep talking about like the algorithm. Can you walk me through what does that look like to build what goes into an algorithm on BotSpot? What does that look like?
Sure. So basically you'd come to the website, right? You go to botspot.trade and we have like a big box that you basically type into. You ever go to Lovable? You know what Lovable looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically like Lovable, right? You type in, I want to make a trading strategy that does X, right? So for example, one example that I use pretty often, because it's a really simple strategy that actually like does very well, is let's say there's this indicator called, or a ticker TQQQ. It's the NASDAQ leveraged 3 times. Okay, so if the NASDAQ goes up by 1%, this goes up by 3. Same thing on the downside, right?
Got it.
Now, if you look at the history of this indicator or of this asset, it's done very, very well over time. It's like you compare it to NASDAQ, they're like miles apart, right? One's up like 30,000%, the other one's up 3,000% over like the long term, which is really cool, right? It's a good asset to have. But we had the idea of, okay, the problem with this asset is the big drawdowns, right? You'll have, like, for example, it's up, 30,000% or something since inception. It's crazy. It's one of the best performing assets, that you can buy right now. But if you own this in 2022, you would have lost 80% of your money over a 6-month time period. Which is wild, right? Like, who the hell wants to own that, right? The upsides are good, but the downsides are very bad. So we have these sessions every Tuesday as part of Lumi Wealth, where we discuss, what kind of trading strategies are we going to build, whatever. And we talked about this asset, and we're like, why don't we do something very simple, right? We look at an indicator called the 200-day moving average, which is basically just the average price over the past 200 days, right? And it moves every day, right? It's like a rolling window kind of thing. And what if we just said, if the price is above that, we're holding it, but if the price is below it, we sell it, right? So in other words, if we're in a bear market, get out. And if we're in a bull market, hold on to it and buy it, right? So what you could do is you go to a website and just type simply that in plain English. Say, make me a trading strategy that buys TQQQ when it's above the 200-day moving average and sell when it's below the 200-day moving average.
Interesting.
And that's it. Hit enter. It'll go and build this thing for you.
And then what do you do? So it builds it for you. What's the next step? You have the algorithm.
Yep. So you'll build it. It goes through creating the actual algorithm. You'll get the Python code on the page, and then you have the option: do you want to back test or do you want to deploy this thing? All right. So you can hit back test, which is what we kind of recommend most people do. Let's test this against historical results first, because that way you could run this thing and you could say, okay, is this thing going to do well or not? It might do well for a week, a month, 2 months, a year, but who really knows what happens in the long run?
Right.
So we recommend to do a back test. And, for those people who don't know what a back test is, it's basically just looking at the history of this, right? So going back, let's say TQQQ came out in, I think, 2010 or 2011. Let's start from that point in time, 2010, and then go forward and simulate what happened, right? So we started January 1st, 2010, right? What do we do today? Are we above the moving average or below the moving average? Okay, if we're above the moving average, we're going to buy it. And then you kind of just tick through each day, right? It's just there's a Python script that basically just goes through each day. We provide you with the data and things like that. And we'll just show this is what would have happened over that time period.
Got
right?
it.
You get a graph, you get all the trades that it placed, you get a trading view chart to actually analyze things in detail. And something we're building right now as well is giving AI the capability of reading those results too. So you could even say something like, okay, this came out and it came out pretty good, right? Let's say for this strategy. Okay, how can I make this better, right? Let's do an analysis of that. You could ask the AI, and it'll go off, take those results, analyze them, and tell you, okay, here's another way that we could even do it better based on my analysis of your trades, right? So you could have that conversation. You could do this iterative loop around backtesting, right? When you're done the backtesting portion of it, and once you're kind of satisfied with how this algorithm's working for you from historical context, then you'll hit the deploy button and you can link it up to a broker, right? So we have a bunch of brokers that we support, Schwab, Alpaca, Tradier. We have a bunch of different brokers. You'll pick your broker, link it up. Usually it's like either API keys or something like that. And then you hit deploy and then you just watch this thing run, right? And we'll monitor this thing for you. If anything goes wrong, if there's some sort of error that happens, we let you know. If it drops by a certain amount of percentage points, we'll let you know. We basically monitor this thing for you, make sure that things are going well, and then give you like an update every week. This is how your algorithms are doing. This one's up this much, this one's up this much. So you can kind of keep track of all that.
I have to ask this question because I've been thinking about it, and I think it's a fascinating proposition. The pricing of, like, when you launch this marketplace, this is going back a little bit, when you launch this marketplace for algorithms, how are you going to do the pricing? Because obviously, the value of an algorithm is not constant, especially a trading algorithm where, it can depending on, I'm guessing that your average user is not going to be trading in companies that have small enough market caps that like, 3 different people using the same algorithm is going to cause an issue. But I'm fascinated to hear if you guys have thought through any of those pricing issues and how you're going to price these out. Is it going to be purely like, Jake puts one up and I, Spencer, I'm like, hey, that's cool. Jake, I will pay you $150 to use that. And Jake's like, nuh-uh, 155. And I'm like, not according to the algorithm.
Yeah.
Or how is that going to work?
Yeah, that's actually the question of the hour. You hit the nail on the head. That's something that I think about all the time, and that our clients actually ask me about all the time too. Yeah. And the truth is, I mean, kind of the fast and the long answer. The fast answer is we don't know, right? We'll experiment. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But the long answer is, we've spoken to a bunch of people, and there seems to be a general consensus around let's make this a monthly fee that the user or the creator can choose. Right. There's, a lot of people have talked about.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah. In an ideal world, this would probably be the best situation is we would charge you based off of how much money you put in. So there's some sort of like performance fee. However, there's a lot of legal stuff around that. Right. Then that makes us, either an investment advisor or something more than that. So there's a lot of legal issues around that. So we can't, that's what we would love to do. That's what a hedge fund does. And basically we enable people to create like micro hedge funds, if you think about it, right? In that capacity. But from a legal perspective, I don't think we could do it, at least in the United States, right? Maybe in another country. But in the US, what we can do is we can allow you to charge a monthly fee and even give you the ability to pick that monthly fee. Do you want to charge $100 a month? Do you want to charge $200 a month? Do you want to charge $1,000 a month? Some of our clients, they won't take less than $1,000 a month. Sure, if your algorithm's that good, why not? Right. But then we could probably also set up tiers as well. Right. Yeah. So if you're putting in $1,000, then it's tier 1. If you're putting in $10,000, it's tier 2. And then anything over that, it's tier 3. And we can kind of do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So will there be a point, I know you mentioned integrating AI into reading like the back testing results and helping coach you through maybe how to better the algorithm, things like that. Is there a future where AI is also involved in more dynamic algorithms in the sense that, for example, we had on, this was way back in like season 1, and now he's actually with OpenAI. His name's Aidan McLaughlin.
Oh, wow.
And he built a company called Topology, right, Spencer?
Yeah, Topology.
Right? Yeah. Topology AI. And the idea was they were building a fund, but using AI that was actively doing things like reading breaking news, things like that. So it was incorporating these other elements.
Really deep sentiment analysis, basically.
Yeah. Is there a future where you could build an algorithm that's not just based on ticker performance, but also on, hey, if you identify a company in the S&P 500 that is XYZ going through this or that, then buy or sell?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That is 100% something that is actually already available, right? We give you access to use Perplexity in our algorithms. So, so take a step back. How does all this stuff work? We have an open source Python library called LumiBot. You guys can look it up if you want. And that's basically what powers everything, right? We've been developing this for like 5 years now. And it could do a lot of stuff. It could do back testing, it could connect to a lot of different brokers. And one of the capabilities that we gave it is to connect to Perplexity and be able to ask questions to Perplexity, right? So you can kind of make it do that sort of thing. You could actually go to BotSpot and you could say, use Perplexity to find, a stock that beat earnings today, blah, blah, and buy that stock. And that is currently available on our system.
Okay. That's exciting. That's
I think that's really cool.
Awesome.
And to take that a step further too, like I said, every Tuesday we kind of get together Tuesday night. If someone buys our pro plan, they want to be part of this Tuesday session. What we do is kind of get together every Tuesday and we say, what do we want to build today? Do we want to build some sort of algorithm? Do we want to build this or that? And one of the things and we do like a vote, right? So we put a bunch of things on a list and people vote on it. What do we work on today? And one of the things that's consistently been at the top of the list is exactly what you're describing, is the ability to make agentic trading bots, right? So meaning you have an AI agent to make the bot itself, but then the bot itself is also can be an agent, right?
Yeah.
Where right now, we'd have something that's like, okay, search perplexity, that's something simpler. But you could also, in the future, this is what we're working on, is build like a whole agentic flow out of this, right? So it could do a perplexity search and then do some reasoning around it, and then maybe go do a bunch of other searches around that, and then do some more reasoning, and then maybe make some trades, and then look back, okay, I placed this trade last week, it didn't work out so well. What about the next one coming up? And you could have that sort of thing happen as well.
Wow.
So I'm curious. Another area where algorithmic trading is rampant, obviously, is within crypto. Is there any application of BotSpot to crypto as well, or is it strictly traditional markets for now?
No, we connect to Coinbase, Kraken, KuCoin, and Binance. Alpaca also has some crypto trading, and there might be another broker somewhere in there that does crypto trading as well. We eventually want to do DeFi. I think that would be really cool, right?
Yeah.
Because Binance has a lot of different coins. Coinbase has less. Kraken has quite a few, but those tend to be the like bigger market cap ones, right?
Right.
What we'd like to eventually do is to use DeFi, and if we could do DeFi as a broker, let's say like Sushi Swap, Pancake Swap, some brokers like that. Not only can we do things that are like these smaller coins, meme coins, whatever. There's some really interesting stuff going on there. These coins, some of them, they take off 1,000% in like an hour, right? So it's kind of cool to have somebody monitoring for that. But we could even go further than that, right? We can get it to a point where, you can buy a house in crypto, right? So you can start trading real estate around America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can buy cars through crypto. You could buy watches, like all this NFT type stuff. You could trade those.
Right.
You could potentially even trade debt, right? There's like these flash loans they could trade.
Interesting.
So we don't currently have that capability yet, but it's definitely something that we're thinking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And the more funding we can get, we're doing a fundraising round right now. The more funding we can get, the faster we can get there. Right. So
yeah.
So you mentioned that you've been building the LumiBot for 5 years, right?
Something like that.
What was the inflection point that made that happen 5 years ago? What was it that you were doing, or what did you see that made you want to do it?
Yeah, so the initial impetus behind it was we were teaching people how to build trading bots, right? But there just really wasn't very good technology out there. There's other things out there like Backtrader, for example, was one of our competitors. I think we've blown way past what they have at this point. But that was kind of one of the competitors that was out there at the time. But you could only do backtesting, you can't do trading, and it had a lot of limitations around it. Right. Or you had other ones that were like really fast at back testing, but they only did like matrix operations. There just wasn't really the technology out there to be able to build. Like what we want to do is we want to have one set of code that you can create, that you can back test, and then you could run it on a broker as well. And that is just one code through and through. Right.
Yeah.
With most of these technologies, you have to build one thing to back test it, and you see how it works, and you have to build it again when you trade it. And then how do you know that that's exactly the same thing? What if there's some sort of translation issues? What if there's, there's a bunch of stuff that can go wrong? So we built LumiBot to kind of make that whole thing seamless, right? You build one set of code, you back test it, and then you just flip a switch and you run it, and that's it.
And this is intended so there will be kind of two audiences, it sounds like. There will be builders, people building algorithms and selling their algorithms.
Yep.
And then there will be those who just come to the marketplace, who are a little independent, who want to stick it to the mutual funds and kind of have their own independent process here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely look at it that way. I think the majority of people kind of just want to get algorithms and use them. That makes sense. It can be a lot of work to build these things out. And I'm not just saying technology work. I'm saying like figure out a strategy, right?
Yeah.
So, the majority of people, they do want to just take something and run with it. That's what we're finding. But there's also a spectrum, right? It's not just one or the other, right? Because even if you're someone who takes something from the marketplace, you could actually take something from the marketplace and modify it, right? So let's say, for example, one bot that we're going to have up there when we launch it is a Palantir trading bot, okay? So Palantir stock has been doing really well, right? If you run a back test of basically all you need to do is buy a call option around the money, and then hold that for, buy something, let's say a month out, right? Hold that for about 2 or 3 weeks and then just roll it again and just keep doing that every 2 or 3 weeks. You buy it, a month expiry out, use like 5 or 10% of your account for that. And you would just make a killing doing that, right? The back tests are just like off the charts. Like this is like, I made a video about this. It was like some like ridiculous amount of money. It's obviously a risky thing to do. But, if you have an account or if you want to do one portion of your account, you could potentially make a lot of money if you pick the right thing.
Right.
But then, okay, you did this for Palantir. What if you have a different stock in mind, right? What if you want to do that for Tesla? What if you want to do that for Apple, Google, whatever, right? You'd be able to swap that out very easily, right? So the marketplace will be good where you could just kind of take something that's pre-made, prefab, but it doesn't just end there. Like you can still modify it. You could either modify, what we call the parameters, which would in this case be like the ticker symbol, whatever. And maybe, instead of buying a month out expiry, maybe buy 2 months out, maybe buy a week out. Like those are just parameters they can move around. Or you could actually just tell the AI, depending on the permissions for the strategy, like actually just modify it. Like you can, buy 3 stocks at a time, right? So you're right that there is this 2 tiers, right? Where, one set of people is going to want to create, another set of people is going to want to just use something, but there's also a lot of gray area in between.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm in. I want
to get set up.
Yeah. Seriously.
So when someone launches one of these bots, where does it deploy? Does it deploy to like a user chosen infrastructure, or is there something pre-selected that you guys have configured already?
Yeah, the way we used to do things, I mean, actually, let's take a step back. We used to do things where you deploy it on your own infrastructure. We show you how to do this on Replit or on Render or, whatever else you want to do. We'll show you how to do that. That's part of our courses. We've been doing that for a while. And if you go through our bot spot and it creates this code for you, you can literally just take that code and do whatever the heck you want to do with it, right? The code is yours, right? So it's generating code for you. We could run it for you, or you could just take it, run it on Replit, run it on AWS, run it wherever you want to do it, right? But in terms of the deployment from our end, we're doing this all on AWS, right? So that's where our infrastructure is. We're putting everything there, easy to scale, cheap, all that kind of stuff. I think it makes the most sense, But if you're a more advanced user, you could still put it on your own servers if you want.
Rob, I'm curious so what does the monetization strategy look like for BotSpot? As far as, is it like a mutual fund where you're taking a small percent of everything incurred, or what does that look like?
Yeah, no, I mean, legally we can't do that. So we are not considered investment advisors, and we're not considered brokers or anything like that. There's a whole bunch of different legal things you can get. We're not hedge funds, we're not financial advisors, we're not any of that stuff. And we want to stay that way, right? Because as soon as you're a financial advisor, you have to do a lot of stuff that probably our users would not be happy with, right? Like if you're a financial advisor, you would have to say, like, you can't trade options, right? Like you might have to assess a client and say, you're just not allowed to trade options based on what we know about you, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think people would be very happy about that. So we try to stay away from that. I don't want to be a financial advisor. We don't want to take a percent commission, anything like that. We just charge simply a monthly fee for using our product. And what we're probably going to start doing in the future is charging for like add-ons as well, right? So like if you want to get more like AI tokens, that could be an add-on. If you want to get more back tests, that could be an add-on. Like one feature we're going to add in the future is to like be able to run 1,000 back tests at a time, right? Which is just like, it's like, yeah, if you want to do that yourself, that'd be a huge pain to do, but we can do that for you because we have the infrastructure to do it, but we're going to charge you for that, right? Because we actually have to run these machines ourselves. So we can give you the tokens to do that, right? So we'll probably be charging a bunch of like add-ons like that. I'm just saying it's similar to a lot of other AI companies, right? They'll charge you for, the base fee, and then they'll have some sort of like extra credits or something like that they can add in.
Yeah, that makes sense. And would you take any part of the fee that a creator charges to use their algorithm?
Yeah, like the marketplace, you mean, right? Yeah. We would take a fee. Yeah. We're still debating exactly what that number is going to be. I think anywhere for like 10 to 20%. We don't want to take too much, right? We want to make sure that the community flourishes, that sort of thing. But
yeah, it's a fine line to walk for sure.
Yeah, because on the one hand, if you charge too much, then people aren't going to want to use your platform. But if you charge too little, then you don't get enough money to be able to build the platform. So there's a fine line in between there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, this is big. That's exciting.
Yep.
I'm curious. We obviously this phrase "human in the loop" is so big with AI, and it's thrown around so much, and people, anyway, it's talked about all the time. Is there any part of the trading process that you think should never be automated, or are you saying no? You can just automate it all and just give it the money.
I'm a believer that we can automate it all, right? I don't think right now, I would not trust like fully an AI to run my finances right now. I don't know how much you guys have used agents like a Claude Code or something, but like, holy crap, things can go very wrong sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it can go
So
sideways.
I wouldn't, at this point in time, I wouldn't do that. But this is actually a very interesting exercise I did one day. I don't know what got into my head. I watch a lot of podcasts, watch your podcast, but what I did one day was I got AI to basically talk about the future of what finance is going to be like. Make a story about that. What is the future going to look like? Do all the analysis that you can think of and think 5-10 years from now, what are things going to look like in finance? I got to make a story. I turned that story into a podcast using AI. And this is what I was listening to for the next couple of days. It was actually really cool. So you hear like these
like
crazy
a true
stories.
fintech CEO.
Yeah. That was actually really, if you guys have never tried that, it's actually a really fun exercise to do.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because you could read a story and that's cool, but turning it into like a podcast and like listening to it is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I did that with, kind of what we're building out, trading and investing. And the story that it painted out, and I really agree with this, is like, it actually made a bunch of stories, but one of the ones that like really sticks in my head was a story of this like this girl, late woman, whatever, right? She wakes up in the morning and she's like, okay, she works in the finance industry or she has like a portfolio. And basically she just doesn't really have to do anything, right? It's kind of just taken care of for her in the background, right? Instead of her going to her trading terminal and saying, I want to do X, Y, or Z, it's going to be more like, hey, this is what happened. By the way, this news event happened today. Based on that information, I took the liberty to move some money from here to here, and that's what we're now investing in these types of bonds. Do you agree with that or not? It's more of like this passive type thing, where it's doing it for you, and then letting you know what happened. Or you could even have like, I think it depends on how smart these AIs get. Which, if you guys are in the same boat as me, I'm assuming you are, since you run an AI podcast. I'm a firm believer that these things are going to be significantly smarter than any human being, and very soon, right? I would actually make the argument that in some cases it's like way smarter than people already, right? And in that scenario, why would you want to wait until the human gives you a reply before you make some very important decision, right? You know what I mean? Like if a war broke out in a country, do you want the AI to ask you to move the money, or do you want to just do it for you? Right. And I think, some people have to make that decision. Do they want to have that or not? I mean, maybe not, it's default on for everybody. But, I would argue that this AI could probably do a much better job managing money than I can. Right. It could do it faster. It could think through things more deeply. It could understand all the nuances of things and come up with a way of doing that much faster. Right. And I think that's where we want to get to, right? Is we want to live in this future where you just don't really have to think about this stuff, right? It's optimized for you. It tells you what's going on. It asks you some questions every once in a while, but that's just like in the back burner. You're going on and you're on the beach sipping Mai Tais or something, like that's, I think that's a much better future to have, right?
So I'm interested. At what point did LumiBot turn into BotSpot, or was it always kind of developed alongside one another, and just more recently BotSpot has gotten a sexy new upgrade with language models?
No. So the way that this kind of happened, so to tell you the history, we started our company in 2019 November, right before the pandemic. It was a fun time.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting time to start a startup.
That's what I was going to say. It's a real roller coaster time to have a startup.
Yeah, to say the least. It was definitely pretty crazy. We've been remote from the beginning. As a lot of weird stuff happened with our company going through that. But we started off as an education company, right? And that was done on purpose because, to create a company that can actually trade for you and actually do all those kind of things is really difficult, right? Especially back in 2019 when we didn't have these AI tools. To build something like this out would have been, millions of dollars of investment. There's a lot of legal ramifications. There's all the stuff behind that. So we started off as an education company to get to know the market, to understand what do people want, to start building that like audience of people and kind of get our foot in the door, right? And then we started building out LumiBot along with that because we kind of just needed a tool for our users to use. We're teaching you how to do this stuff. Here's a tool that you could use, right? Here's LumiBot. You could use it to actually backtest, all that kind of stuff. BotSpot has been something that we've wanted to do for a long time, right? Since when we launched the company, from the very beginning, the idea is we want to build some sort of technology that allows people to actually trade. It was just very difficult to build something like that, right? So somewhere in 2000, I want to say 23 or maybe beginning of 24, we started building out the beginnings of BotSpot. Very difficult to build this kind of infrastructure to actually trade stuff and like not screw things up. So it took us a while to kind of get to the point where we were able to launch our first version, which was around January of 2025, right? And it was always kind of like we developed it a bit and then we didn't develop it, whatever, is that sort of thing. But again, the catalyst, the real catalyst that got us to launch BotSpot, and especially the way that we did, was that November-ish time period, I think October, November, when O1 came out. That was just like this eureka, holy crap, like this is like definitely going to be a thing. If we're teaching you how to build trading strategies, we're probably not going to have to teach you that in a year from now or 2 years from now, right? And then that also opens up all these different doors, right? So we're like, we're jumping on the opportunity. I put together a whole team of people and we just raced as fast as we possibly could to get this thing out the door. Yeah.
What's been the response to it? Like I'm curious what the feedback you've gotten so far is.
Yeah, I mean, people love the concept. It's still, something that you have to put in some effort, right? So we do a lot of work with helping people with this. So we're working on basically making the AIs better and easier to use, all this kind of stuff. So that's like really simple to do this stuff. But so far the feedback has been very positive. We've gotten very good feedback. We used to advertise our courses back in the day. It was very hard to advertise. As soon as we started advertising this, it was like really easy to get new customers. So far it's been really easy. It's been a really, really good start, I'd say. I think we have a lot of work to do, right? Like my vision of this is like, you tell it like I want this to be kind of like a Jarvis, right? You tell this thing, I want like build this thing for me. It just like goes off and just does it. You don't really have to think about it too much. And it kind of just like will do all that kind of stuff. And you could even just say, hey, this thing's not making money. How do I make this more profitable? Like help you figure out all that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of ways to go to make it that easy. But as of right now, I mean, I get people coming to me all the time saying, why don't I just use ChatGPT to build this thing? I'm like, go ahead, like give it a try. It's like, it is not easy. Like ChatGPT just does not know how to build trading bots, right? And it's like not even close to being able to do that.
Yeah.
Right. But you come to our platform and you tell it to do something similar, you're going to save yourself days or weeks or months of work,
Yeah.
And is that just because you've done a lot of like the prompt and context engineering for the user already, or is that just because of like the harness that you have put in place around existing data?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything,
but yeah,
a little bit of everything, right? So the system prompt, we definitely took a long time to build that out, right? Because then you start learning about, you tell the AI build this kind of strategy, and it just makes the same mistakes over and over and over again. Right? It's like, stop doing that, right? So you put that into like the prompt. We give it like every time you tell our BotSpot to build something, you're not just saying that to ChatGPT and it's coming back. It's going along with, here's a bunch of examples of things. Here's things that you should not be doing. These are absolute no's. Now what we've also created is once it creates that strategy, it goes through a validation process, right? So it creates the code. And then on the other side of that is you have like an antagonist AI that's tasked to basically look for problems, right? And we'll say, okay, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. And they'll go through that cycle until it like they both agree that this is a good thing, right? And then you'll run that strategy. Actually, this is where we want to get to is that you run the strategy and you'll find out more from the backtest, right? Did it actually work properly? Is it doing what you think it should do? And then now we have another feedback loop around that as well, right? So we have built out, yes, a system prompt does help a lot, but there's all this additional tooling that really makes it easier to build this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was really curious, especially to hear that about validating both of their, both models' assumptions against the backtesting. Because a really common problem that people overlook is that AI prefers AI written text, and so it leads to, it's a phenomenon that goes deeper than just that, and it leads to a lot of weird confabulations where LLMs will get in almost like group psychosis together. So how do you have, I would be interested to hear, do you have like some, on that note, are there any numbers that you have around how successful the antagonist or judge LLM is at critiquing, compared to like the back testing, or is that something you guys haven't needed to test?
Yeah, we don't have the numbers around that yet. This validator thing is something that just recently launched. Like we don't have we don't have numbers around that yet. So we definitely could still improve on that. But I could tell you it does catch things quite often.
Yeah.
Right. Because, the one LLM will build this stuff out and it gets into this mindset of like, let's build stuff. And then now you get the other one and it's actually not even that hard to make them antagonize each other. You just have to say, like, think critically about this. Here are the rules. Is it following these rules? Is there anything broken here? Right. Is there anything illegal going on or anything that's like you're trying to hack us or something? We check for that stuff too. And then it'll basically say, here's some feedback. And then they go back and forth until they figure it out. The real test doesn't happen though until you back test or deploy it. Right. Because as much as, you could look at the code and you kind of infer it's going to do this or that, you don't really know until you run it, or at least AI isn't good enough at inferring yet.
Yeah.
So running the actual back test is also very helpful, or running it live is very helpful, because then you could actually see what does this thing actually do in a real environment. Right. And then now you could take that information, and that's the next thing that we're working on now, is taking that information from, you ran a back test. Okay, these are the trades that it placed. This is the annual return that it got. This is the drawdowns that happen. This is where it lost money. This is where it made money. And you could take all that information, and we basically have to compress it because it's tons of data, right?
Yeah.
All the logs too, there's tons of logs. So we have to take all that information in. So the way that we're building this thing out right now, it's not live yet, but hopefully it will be live in the next day or two.
Wow.
We've gotten quite far along on this, but it would be basically something like this, right? So you tell it to make a strategy. We use a good system prompt. We try to get this thing one shot to work. A lot of times that doesn't happen. So you have an antagonist and you want to go through a loop, and then you have some code, right? And then you want to back test or deploy it, right, to get some real data, see if anything crashes, first of all, that sort of stuff. But then also, is it actually doing what you want it to do? And is it making any kind of money, or is it losing a bunch of money? You won't know that until you actually run it with real data and all that.
Right.
And then now we have another AI that can actually analyze those results. So we take in, logs, we take in trades, we take in all these different things, and we'll give them to an AI with a very large context window. So something like a Google Gemini, right?
Yeah.
Cheap AI, very large context window. Take a look at all this stuff happening here. This is what the user wants. This is what the strategy is about. Here are all the logs. What is important out of this? Right? And just pulls out all the important stuff, comes up with like a little summary. And we could do that with everything that the user is talking about. Wow. And then now, if you're saying something like this, if you're saying you have a strategy, it's and you ran it and the back test, let's say, sucks, right? You'd say like, why isn't this making money? Right? Like, what's wrong with this thing? Right.
Right.
And you can send it off to an AI. It will automatically say, okay, well, to analyze this, we're going to need the trades data. We're going to need the logs. We're going to need this, right? It's going to go off, get all that information, give it to an AI to summarize all of it, and then analyze all of that summary plus what the user's saying, and then provide a response back, right? This is kind of how this whole thing will work.
Wow. So could I get as granular as say, I see that for this 7 months of the back testing, it performed really well. Could you dig in and see why it performed really well for those 7 months? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it's really cool because, if you give this thing to an AI, right, say like, why didn't it do well in January of 2025, right? You give this to an AI, not to get super, super technical, but you'll have like an intent analyzer. right? That says, okay, what is the intention of what this person's asking? Oh, well, they're asking about, certain trades or whatever, right? That means that we need to get trades data, we need to get this data, we need to get this data, right? Okay, now it's got that data. Now you can take each one of those data along with what the user is saying and say, okay, extract the most important things from this data based on what the user is saying. So if you said what happened in January 2025 and it's looking at trades data, you give it the trades data and you give it what you said, then it's going to extract that and make a summary of what happened in January. And then we'll have another AI that's looking at all the different pieces of information and give you back a response. All right. So we can absolutely do that sort of thing.
It's awesome.
Wow.
So projecting out a little bit, and this is where it starts getting real wow. I cannot. Thank you, speculative. My brain would not think of that word. This is where it gets real speculative. Project out 10 years. Let's pretend, every trader in America is using a tool like yours. What do you think that does to the stock market at large? Is it just going to be an increasing race like it is at the top of like the quant firms where, you're trying to shave off milliseconds of latency between, Jake has his trading bot next to Amazon East 2 and I had mine next to Amazon East 1 and I'm, buying a house to get closer, whatever. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that's going to continue to happen. Like, I mean, you could look at history to kind of see this stuff. Like, I think this is just another part of the trend, right?
Right.
I don't think that anything happening here is anything unusual. This has just been part of a longer trend. We've been going this direction for a long time, right? And what has been happening, right, is, yes, there is all that latency stuff and whatever. Hopefully, that's not as big of a thing, but it probably still will be at some point in time.
Right.
But we've been giving better and better tools to users, right? Like let's say if you had told someone in the 1980s what you're able to do today, you have like a huge unfair advantage. What do you mean?
Right.
You can go on Robinhood on your phone while you're waiting in line and buy a stock? What? Like that would blow people's minds, right? So I mean, I think that's going to be kind of just what happens is like these tools just become, everyone has them. You're right. And that's where we're going to get to. And then there's going to be other things that we compete over. But I think the really good side effect of that is that, and this is, my personal opinion, not everyone agrees with this, but I believe that you give more tools like this to everybody and it makes the entire economy do better. Right.
Yeah.
Because now you're not going to have these people that are basically gambling on Robinhood, losing tons of money. At least if you're going to gamble, back test it first, right? At least you have better odds, right? So you're not going to have as many people losing money on stupid trades and doing stupid things like
That's a
that,
good point,
right?
yeah.
Like, why are you buying an out of the money call option on Palantir expiring 3 months from now? Do you know what the chances are of you making money off that? Like, just do the back test. Like it's, right? So I think people are just going to be making smarter trades. I think people are going to be more profitable overall. And I think that's going to make the entire economy do better, right? Because now you're having capital allocated to the right places. You're not having people do stupid things, lose money on like really crazy trades that just don't make any sense in any world, right? And everyone's making smarter decisions. You're getting more money to the companies that need the money. You're getting people that are not losing money on their portfolio as often, right? Or hopefully never. Right. And we all just end up doing better as a society. That's what I think is going to happen.
I like that. So kind of bake in the floor of trading activity. It might lower like the ceiling of the potential and the potential margins that you can hit, but definitely lowers raises the floor of how far you can fall.
That's definitely true. Yeah. Right.
Don't know if GameStop would happen again.
I mean, maybe it happens less, maybe it happens more. It's hard to predict that specific thing, right?
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, what's fascinating about your approach though is it'll be interesting to see how the pendulum swings, where there will be the masses using the top 3 algorithms, but I think there will always be this minority trying to beat the system, trying to build an algorithm to find some loophole. And I think your platform really lends to both the majority but also the minority, where both can have their fun, both can do what they want to do. But I'll be interested to see if it really changes that much, if everybody will say, okay, I'm just going to use this algorithm, it performs great, or if there will always be those people who say, you know what, stick it, I'm just going to build my own and see, and maybe it ends in terrible trades.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
mean,
I'll be very interested.
if you think about it, that's kind of happening right now already, right? Like, what is the algorithm that everyone buys? It's the S&P 500, right?
Right.
That is the algorithm essentially,
Right.
Yeah.
right? But the problem is, and I don't, and again, this is why we're not building a hedge fund. This is why we're building this platform to allow other people to do things with it.
Right.
Is I don't believe that there's going to be just one algorithm that trades everything in the world, right? That inherently has a problem, right? The reason why markets are successful is because of the competition, right?
Mhm.
And as soon as you have one algorithm that just does everything,
Right.
then now it opens up a bunch of other opportunities, right? Like, for example, with the S&P 500, right? There's so many people going into the S&P 500. It's done very well, and there's no reason not to buy it, right? But that also opens up the possibility, like, what about the companies that are not on the S&P 500, right?
Yeah.
Like, what about the ones that might be getting listed soon? What about the penny stocks? What about, all these other potential ways to make money? Everyone's just blinded to them because it's not in this SPY thing that everyone buys, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just inherently how a market works. It's based on competition. And as soon as you get rid of that competition, you try to have one algorithm that everyone uses, then all of a sudden you start introducing all these inefficiencies in the market.
Yeah. Interesting. So, what do you think? What needs to happen in the AI world? What developments need to occur? What needs to change to enable that future, to enable the future of everybody being able to access these algorithms and use them? What's lacking right now?
Sure. So, I mean, I think a big part of it is tooling, right? Which is what we're building, right? I'm starting to believe that these algorithms that are coming from OpenAI and Anthropic, I mean, they're pretty damn good at this point. Like, we noticed when ChatGPT 5 came out, a lot of people kind of said meh, right? And
Right.
why was that? Is because okay, now it could solve crazy. I love it as a programmer, right? Because it's able to do way more stuff than 4 did, but most people, they don't use it for that, right? So there is a point where even if it's smarter, it doesn't really matter as much. I think finance is probably the limit is quite high before that happens, right? Finance is one of the most complicated topics on earth, right? And it's inherently complicated because of the interactions between people, right?
Right.
But there is a point where, like, these things getting smarter and smarter and smarter is just not as helpful anymore. And now it's really more about the tooling, right? Now it's about how easy is it for me to create something, see the back test, deploy it, get all that stuff done really, really automatically and easy, right? That's, I think, really important is the tooling part of it. Obviously, right now, I don't think, or not obviously, but I don't think we're at the point yet where AI is good enough, right? Where it could just do everything. And I think there's very specific things that's not good enough at. And one of those things is hallucinations, right? Like, hallucinations are a problem in other fields, right? It's not great when you tell it. Yeah. Yeah, right. So like if you tell an AI to make you a certain image and it hallucinates and it comes up with something else, that could be an issue, right? But if it hallucinates and it trades $10,000 or $100,000 or $1 million the wrong way, that's a big issue. You know what I mean? So hallucinations is probably the most important thing I think that we need to get rid of on the base model level, right? In terms of finance. But then the rest of it, I think right now we have very, very capable models. And I was actually watching a talk by Andrew Ng the other day. You guys know who Andrew Ng is, right? Yeah. Stanford guy. He taught, I learned from him machine learning, 15 years ago.
Nice.
But he was talking about how there's 3 different layers to AI, right? And the first layer is the base models, which everyone talks about, ChatGPT, Anthropic, whatever, right? Then there's a layer that sits on top of that. That's like an orchestration layer, right? And that's kind of like a land graph or, N8N or something like that can like orchestrate things. And then there's the thing on top of that. And he's arguing that this is going to be the biggest part of the AI revolution is all the tooling, right? Is now what are we doing with these models, right? That's what we're building, and that's what we're starting to see all these other companies now taking off. You know, the Lovables, the Cursors, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Wow. Like the implications are fascinating.
Yeah. I think we're gonna have a very cool future, you know?
Yeah.
On that note, as we're wrapping up here, if there is somebody out there who is, looking to be less afraid of AI or understand it better, what would you recommend they do? Obviously, one option that you are a big fan of is using it to develop trading strategies. Outside of that, what are the kind of use cases that you found attractive?
How much time do we got?
Yeah. Let loose.
Endless. I mean, if someone's hasn't really used, like, I mean, I still meet people. Like, I met someone the other day, an Uber driver, and I was telling him about, like, what we do as a company, whatever. And he's like, "Oh, that's fascinating, whatever." And I told him, like, "Yeah, just use ChatGPT, blah blah." And he tells me he's never downloaded ChatGPT. I'm like, "Are
that's
you
why we
crazy?"
keep asking this
like,
question.
Mind blowing.
What?
Still, there's people who aren't using it.
I find that wild. Right? I like, what rock are you living under? But I think that's step one is just download. ChatGPT is probably the top app, right? You could, Grok or whatever else, pick something, get something. I give it all sorts of stuff, right? Like I really like just turning it on voice mode and just having a conversation with it. I think that's really cool, right? I like giving it a lot of our like business things, right? Actually, one of the reasons why we even started building a product the way that we are right now is because of conversations I had with ChatGPT. I'm like, this is what's happening and blah, blah. What do you think? And it's just like this back and forth. And it's like, yeah, this actually sounds like a really good opportunity and blah, blah. Right. So I think for business, it's fantastic. Very often we give our here's our accounting. Here's, how much money we spent on this. And this is how our revenue is going. This is our marketing. What do you think? Right. It tends to give some really good responses for that. Health. I think it's amazing. A little story about me with health is something like 10 or 15 years ago, I started becoming not being able to eat bread, right? And it was like really bothering me a lot. It took me a while to figure out that I couldn't eat it, like just out of nowhere, like in my 20s, came out of nowhere, right? And I couldn't figure out what the heck this was for the longest time. Doctors helped me out with it, blah, blah. And okay, I don't eat bread, right? ChatGPT 03 came out earlier this year. And I told it, this is what I can eat, this is what I can't eat, blah, blah, and kind of talked it through all my symptoms. It recommended an enzyme that I get. I get this enzyme, start using it. I could eat whatever the hell I want now.
Are you kidding?
It's crazy. Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah.
And like the doctors never suggested that.
Not even close. I saw like a million different doctors. They didn't even not even in the same ballpark as that.
Yeah.
Like the best thing that I got from a doctor was like, try a bunch of antibiotics, or the other one's
you are not the first person on our show with similar stories. We one of my friends actually who we brought on the show, Justin, shout out somewhere is he. He has some weird, I don't remember what it's called right now. I apologize, but has some weird autoimmune disorder. Took him forever to figure out a treatment for it, and finally what ended up happening is it was a conjunction of he found a doctor that he really liked, and he did a bunch of talking with ChatGPT to narrow in on some options, and then he went to the doctor with those options, and the doctor was like, yes to these, no to those, let's try them out, and it's worked amazing for him. Incredible. It's amazing. Like I get the people that are afraid of using it in a medical context more than just about any other context. I understand why people are afraid of that, but it is amazing when properly contextualized how well those tools perform, and it's even borne out in studies. There's been a lot of studies done that show it's in some cases even better than doctors at diagnosing particular conditions. It's amazing honestly what statistical mechanics can do.
So another story is my mom earlier this year. She went to go see a doctor. We think she had COVID or something like that when she was visiting Poland, which she does very often. She got really, really sick there, and then came back and did a bunch of x-rays with a doctor. And the doctor basically tells her, you're probably going to die. You have lung cancer is one potential solution. And she's obviously like, what the hell is crazy, right? So we're all freaking out about this. So what I did is I said, okay, get all those x-rays, all the x-rays that you got when you started this whole thing in Poland. And then as we progressed, get all the different x-rays. I took all of those and I think also a CAT scan and gave those to Grok and said, what do you think about this? What do you think is the situation here? And it's like, oh, well, this one had this lung in this specific, like, I don't even know what the heck I was talking about. Right. But it's like, but when you look at it, it's like, oh, I could see it was like this big white spot here. And then it got less and it got less and it got less. And then like, you know, the shape of the lungs changed as well. And it's like, this is probably not any kind of cancerous thing or anything like that. What it seems like is she had COVID and just take a long time to recover. Right. And so she felt a lot more calm about it after that. She went to go see a doctor later that week and basically said the exact same thing. So
that's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Crazy.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the question though, Rob. What was the first bread you ate when you could?
Oh man. I think pizza was the first thing. You know?
I was gonna say that would be mine probably. Just a whole pizza.
Yeah. I went to Pizza Hut the other day. It's been affecting my waistline a little bit, but you know.
Yeah, you're like actually take the enzymes away, maybe.
That's
stuff hilarious.
Pretty damn good. You know?
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up here, if people want to follow you, follow BotSpot, what are the best places to do that?
Yeah, so we're like on all the different social platforms. So whenever we post one thing, we just like automatically send it to everything. So you can follow us on it's under our main brand LumiWealth, right? So LumiWealth, like illuminate your wealth. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok. The TikTok name is LumiRob. You can find us on X. Like we're on like every single platform, right? And then obviously you can go to BotSpot. If you sign up to BotSpot, even if you don't start with our free trial, even if you just give us your email and phone number, we'll send you updates about our platform and kind of what we're up to and all that kind of stuff as well.
Great.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for coming on.
To everything.
This is a great episode.
Yeah.
It's great to meet you guys. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Great to meet you too.
Yeah. Awesome.